turn-based combat, aka the gamer's peanut allergy. A lot of gamers are automatically turned off when they see the style of gameplay mechanic. And who can blame them? They waited for the game to come out, they waited for the game to download, just to play a game where you have to wait for your turn. I hate waiting. So it wasn't really shocking that when Yakuza games, who are insanely popular for their amazing beat-em-up style, announced on April 1 that they are now going to be a turn-based game. Many fans were so taken aback that they wanted to hit RGG Studio with a bike. Like a Dragon games, staying turn-based makes absolute sense. And here's why. Before that though, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button if you cannot wait to play as Chitose. Join Otaku to find for more Like a Dragon content. Like a Dragon games staying turn-based makes absolute sense, and that is because Like a Dragon games are not brawler games. Rather, they are a narrative game. Let me ask you, what do you think of when someone mentions a Yakuza game? Do you think of Tiger Drop? Do you think of... Or do you think of going balls out? Yakuza games are successful not only because of its combat, but because of how it uses different gameplay mechanics to deliver its narrative. Like a Dragon game is a kind of game where they would put a minigame mechanic that is only useful for one scene and will never see it again. They put that because it makes sense for their storytelling. And this is why there are hundreds of minigames in Like a Dragon games. Because its game design is heavily affected by the narrative. Just look at the sub-stories, some of which will require you to date people, putting you in a dating minigame, or even here in Judgment Game where you end up playing red light, green light. Furthermore, during an interview by Game Informer with RGG Studio chief producer Hiroyuki Sakamoto, he said that RGG Studio's games are narrative games. RGG Studio consistently develops gameplay mechanics aligned with the narrative of the game. In the case of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, the overarching theme revolves around the past represented by Kiryu and the future embodied by Ichiban. It makes absolute sense why Like a Dragon games will stay as turn-based games, because the series will continue with Ichiban leading the party, and the protagonist always drives the gameplay. One of the main reasons why Yakuza Like a Dragon is a turn-based game is because of the protagonist's personality. Ichiban loves Dragon Quest and playing other JRPGs so much that his imagination took a wild turn and made the combat as it is. But then again, couldn't RGG Studio just turn back to brawler style despite Ichiban's schizophrenia? Well, no. Like a Dragon games always base their gameplay mechanics on the narrative and how its protagonist acts in the story. Like, think about it. How are you going to beat up an excavator or a giant shark? Using broader combat mechanics won't make sense, but turn-based does. Kiryu, on the other hand, throughout all of his games, stayed a beat-em-up, because that's how the narrative is pushed. Like in Yakuza 1, Kiryu saving the dog makes you want to beat up these hooligans. That's why beat-em-up mechanics make so much sense, since a lot of characters Kiryu face are assholes, whom you want to punch yourself. But that is not to say that Like a Dragon games with Ichiban doesn't have that. In fact, some are named and the others live it. Another thing is how RGG Studio developed their beat-em-up mechanic, with each series giving Kiryu different fighting styles to further match the narrative of the story. Yakuza 0 having various styles makes sense for Kiryu, who's only starting to write his legacy. Like a Dragon Gaiden giving Joryu the agent style, as he now works for the Daidoji faction. And finally, Kiryu being in a turn-based combat makes absolute sense given his health. Please don't die, please don't die, please don't die! RGG Studio develops the gameplay mechanic focusing more on the character's personality. This is what we call character gameplay, which right now, RGG Studio are the only game developers out there who has perfected this gaming concept. Yakuza 5 is the biggest example of character gameplay. Kiryu posing as Taichi Suzuki as a taxi driver, prison escapee Saejima being a hunter in a backwater province, Haruka doing Project Diva battles as an idol, Shinada being a shrimp. Even spin-off games are designed like this. In Judgment games, Yagami and Kaito stayed in beat-em-up style, because it also made sense for their character's personality. with Yagami having a swifter and refined style for his martial arts, but added chasing, investigation, lockpicking, stalking, and dating young girls to match his profession as a detective. Like a Dragon game, staying turn-based makes absolute sense, because Ichiban will definitely be the protagonist for a number of future installments. And that isn't bad, especially since RGG Studio's development for turn-based combat is extensive. Playing the demo for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth made me realize how committed RGG Studio is in making sure that their turn-based combat can be a fun experience. Turn-based combat gets a lot of flack for being outdated, but in my opinion, turn-based combat is still one of the best gameplay mechanics out there, and this is because of how it is designed. Like a Dragon's turn-based combat is a combination of storytelling and flashy mechanics. Ichiban's whole gimmick is being a hero, and the narrative for Lad is following a heroic story properly told in a turn-based combat. Aside from that, Ichiban's party is composed of a homeless man, a retiree, and a bar owner, all of whom would not fit in a brawler-style game. Lad turn-based combat is also filled with flashy gimmicks. You can beat up a person by hosting them, you can beat up a person by playing as a Bond villain, you can beat up a person by cosplaying as Sonic. It tells a story for its fight, while also wearing a unique style that makes it stand out from the rest of the turn-based games. And Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth doubled down on its turn-based mechanic by introducing free movement and made the turn-based combat feel more dynamic, and you are able to use environment as part of your strategy. Just look at how you can brutalize Roman with a bunch of chairs. It expanded on available jobs that made the game fun and created a unique essence of hit actions. And this is what I love about RGG Studio's skills for designing their characters. Despite not knowing anything about Chitose and Tomizawa, their moves provided enough context as to what they are as a character. And not only that, in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, there are other gameplay mechanics introduced. You can ride a Segway, you can play this discounted Pokemon Snap that uses this strange figures. I mean, there's a lot of things here, and this is only the demo. So I'm really excited to play Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth when it comes out next year. But how about you guys? Are you excited for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth despite it being a turn-based game? Well, leave your comments down below. But of course, this doesn't mean that RGG Studio will only make turn-based games, since they always make games based on their narrative. And one of which maybe is a game featuring Shishido, or a brawler type game. Speaking of which, Shishido is a great character and he is better than you think. Check this video out. Like and subscribe to Otaku Defined for more Like a Dragon content. This is Math, and stay awesome, my dudes.